we're coming to you live from the Built Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan, simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network and wherever you are on the free Odyssey app. Good Friday morning, a feel-good football Friday. Things could have happened differently yesterday to make us feel a little bit better about today. One of those things that hopefully doesn't turn into something bigger was Mike McDaniel being fired by the Miami Dolphins and everybody connecting the dots and Stephen Ross and how he loves Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh, his brother, is now available and he's going to give him all the money in the world to go coach the Miami Dolphins, which might be a thing. But we're going to see how this wild card weekend shakes out, what jobs are available. But you'd rather not have desperate billionaire Stephen Ross in the mix in this situation. That's a fact. You can tell me how much you want. You think the Dolphins organization stinks, and it might. But this guy, desperate billionaire Stephen Ross, generally gets what he wants when he wants it. And I know we'll get to it at some point. He's pissed off. He's poopy pants boomer. His hockey team stinks. There was an amazing college football game last night. Miami, just unbelievable. Back and forth. You got Trinidad Chambliss leading Ole Miss down. Then you got Carson Beck coming back the other way, running in that touchdown. Just real exciting stuff. With Miami going to the championship game. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, okay, I'm doing all right. It was a good game last night. The football game was amazing, and I was really happy for Carson Beck. So Miami got their money's worth.
Yeah,
if you remember last year at this time, I wouldn't say this time, probably a couple of months into the college football season, everybody thought that Carson Beck was going to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he got hurt, didn't play well, and things didn't go well for them down in Georgia. And now he kind of has the last laugh. Which is kind of what sports is all about. It's about coming back and finding your spot and then making the most of it. And certainly, he's done that. The game was ridiculous. It was back and forth. It was great. Teams were pretty much even. I thought Miami's defense, played great in the first half, and then all of a sudden, Chambliss started making plays. I mean, that kid is a pretty special player. But it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be Indiana. I think Indiana's going to win tonight, and. It's just great to have these games all back to back to back to back all the way through Monday. It's just, if you're a football fan, it is awesome because it is going to be, this is like the greatest weekend of the year, given the amount of different types of football games that we have and what's on the line for each of them. Now, you talked about the Miami Dolphins. Here we are. This is 8 coaches now. This is 8 coaches that are fired. And this is the old fly in the ointment. If you are the Giants, because everything was trending, John Harbaugh Giants. Now, all of a sudden, you got a billionaire down there in Miami. He has shown the propensity to spend as much money and try to do everything he possibly can to make that team relevant, from rebuilding the stadium to paying, just an exorbitant amount of money to not only the staff, but also the players. Now, the interesting thing here in the Dolphins is if John Harbaugh wants to go down there, he'll probably reunite with a general manager who used to work for Ozzie Newsome at the Ravens.
Yep.
And and I think that I would imagine Stephen Ross is just going to spend as much money as it takes and to give John Harbaugh everything he wants in order to get him to come down to South Beach, which the Giants are not going to do. The Giants would give him a great contract. The Giants would probably give him a pretty good budget for a coaching staff. But the Giants are going to most likely make him work with Joe Schoen and Joe Schoen's staff.
Yes, unless they get really, really desperate and this thing gets out of control and they decide we need John Harbaugh more than we need Joe Schoen. So Jordan Renan, he covers the Giants. He's the ESPN beat writer for the Giants and does a good job. He's around the team all the time. He's got great sources. So he says yesterday, quote, the Giants want him and will do, John Harbaugh, of course. The Giants want John Harbaugh, will do whatever they have to do to get him. Just not sure they'll blow it all up, all right? But then he puts this before the Dolphins job opens up. But I heard if Tampa Bay or Miami opens, it's over for the Giants.
Yeah, there you go.
And this, by the way, would be so New York football. Because not only, if John Harbaugh goes to the Dolphins, not only does it completely F the Giants, it now completely Fs the Jets because you've got Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. You got Mike Vrabel, Drake May, and the New England Patriots. And now you got John Harbaugh and the Miami Dolphins. See you in 30 years. I mean, my God, that can't happen. Now, there's still a chance that Philadelphia, Green Bay, Buffalo opens up, and John Harbaugh may want to go there. But there is no way that this isn't related. That Stephen Ross waited. He probably was asking and checking and seeing if John Harbaugh was interested. And that's why Mike McDaniel, who gave a press conference and said, hey, I'm here. I'm the head coach, still told otherwise. I'm going to be in on these interviews for the GM. All of these things. And then bang, a couple days later, he's gone. You cannot tell me that's not a coincidence.
No, it's believe me. You got to remember Stephen Ross is a Michigan man, so he supported Jim Harbaugh all those years up in Michigan, and certainly has a very close attachment to the Harbaugh family. The difference here is that the GM job is open, and there is a guy that has been interviewing for the GM job down there in Miami that does have ties to Ozzie Newsome and the Ravens, and of course John Harbaugh was around this guy. And
Who is that?
It's Alexander. I think it's Chad Alexander. I think his name is.
Okay.
And I'm just telling you that when I saw this yesterday, and I was here reading it after we had gotten off the air, and I'm like, here we go. This feels like a fait accompli now. And now the Giants will have to turn their attention to Kevin Stefanski, Mike McCarthy, maybe a couple of these other coordinator types, but I still think that the Giants are going to want a seasoned head coach, somebody who's been through the ringer before.
Yeah, so, and that's why I had this vision last night. I can now see Kevin Stefanski with the Giants logo on his polo or quarter zip giving the press conference, and I could see now John Harbaugh with the Dolphins logo on his pullover, and that's what's going to happen. And also, by the way, the guy you're talking about, Chad Alexander.
Yes.
He is where right now?
He is out there at the L.A. Chargers.
Oh. Working for who? With who?
Well, with Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh, yeah, all right.
And he's the assistant GM out there, I believe.
This is not good. This is not good for anybody.
That's exactly what this is.
Eddie's going nuts in there. He loves this. Now, this is great for Eddie in so many ways because it creates happiness for his franchise, but also creates misery for the people around here. So this is he gets his schadenfreude and then his own happiness
it's going to be amazing.
Wrapped up
He's
into one
here. He's going to
here.
end up retiring, and they're going to end up getting John Harbaugh and this Chad Alexander dude, and they're going to be putting all this money
He's not going to die.
Team.
He can watch all the games and watch him win.
But he's not going to be here to actually enjoy it with us. You know what I mean?
He'll be up to watch all of it, though. I can guarantee you that.
I could see us having a Miami Dolphin helmet in front of us next year.
Oh, well, I don't think so. That's one thing we're not going to have. But he'll be able to stay up for the Super Bowl. He'll be able to stay up for their Monday night games and their Sunday night games and their Thursday night games, because I'm sure they'll get the full complement of primetime games because everybody's going to be excited about the Dolphins. But
here's the other thing, too, about all of this. Is there a potential for a ninth opening? Which would be insane.
Well, yeah, of course. That's what we've talked about with Wild Card Weekend.
I'm just saying, like 9 openings in the NFL. I figured 7. Now we have 8. Could we get 2? If teams get blown out or teams are not happy with their coaches or not happy with their performances. Wow. The NFL is crazy. I mean, it changes on a dime. I mean, we left this studio yesterday morning, and I was like, there's no way John Harbaugh is not coming to the Giants.
Yeah, which makes me think that obviously something else can change because the NFL is so wacky. Here is a scenario that we haven't really thought about, but I think could be a realistic thing if something happens. So we've heard the chatter about the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they kind of squeaked into the playoffs at 9-7-1. Like the Lions were 9-8, the Vikings were 9-8, the Packers are 9-7-1. They had a weird season. Micah Parsons goes down. They went all in to get Micah Parsons because this was a Super Bowl year for them. All right, they are playing the Chicago Bears. There are rivalries in the NFL that are bigger than others. The Packers and the Bears are one of those rivalries. When Matt LaFleur took the job, he said, we got to beat the Bears every year. When Ben Johnson took the job, he said, we got to beat the Packers every year. If Ben Johnson, in his first year there, beats the snot out of the Green Bay Packers in a playoff game, and then the Packers are so pissed off that they let Matt LaFleur go, then there you go. You got your guy. Matt LaFleur will go right to the New York Giants if John Harbaugh goes to the Dolphins, and you might even end up with a better situation than you would have had with John Harbaugh.
It's a potential. I mean, anything's potential now. I mean, I've seen it all. I thought I've seen it all, but now we're starting to see even more than all. That's the way I look at this. And by the way, so the Packers have a new president, and his name is Ed Policy. You know the last name Policy.
Sure.
From Carmen Policy.
Yeah. He was the Browns and the...
Right, so the president of the Packers is Carmen Policy's son.
Okay.
Because everything in the NFL is...
incestuous.
Right,
everybody's son is in the thing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So he replaced Mark Murphy, who was the longtime president there, former player for the Washington Commanders or Redskins at the time. So he, he may want to make a change. You just never know. I mean, everybody wants to have their fingers on the pulse.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, you don't know. And, since they do not have an owner, the guy that's running the team is the president, is really the one that makes the decisions.
What I think you're going to see here, and that is something that I think Giant fans should be rooting for. You should be rooting really hard for the Chicago Bears this week, because what I think is going to happen, and maybe John Harbaugh looks at the Packers job and says that's great, but I'm telling you what I think we're going to see here from the Dolphins and John Harbaugh is going to be completely unprecedented. What we saw with John Gruden and the Raiders,
something like that, yes,
with $100 million, all that stuff.
Oh, it could be more than that.
I think it's going to be things like you've never seen before, like maybe even a piece of the organization. I'm telling you, wait till you see what he gets. Stephen Ross,
he's going to be the highest paid coach in the league.
So, easy. And by the way, Stephen Ross, we talk about Jerry Jones and, how he's the last couple of years, he's been thinking about his mortality and all these things. And we joke about that with Jerry. Stephen Ross is the same exact thing. But Stephen Ross is like, I think, even more volatile from a financial standpoint than even Jerry Jones would be, meaning that he is going to do whatever it takes to get this guy.
You don't know how right and accurate you are in saying that. And the reason I say that is because I was actually at a dinner with Stephen Ross prior to the building of Hudson Yards.
Yeah.
I think I've told you the story.
Yeah. We'll tell it again.
I'm going to tell it again. I was at a dinner with Stephen Ross and sat down and really had a great conversation with him. And he was talking about his vision for Hudson Yards. This is just when it was in the planning stages and essentially a hole in the ground. And he was telling me about the vessel that they were going to build and the amount of buildings that they were going to build and how this is this is going to be a huge legacy for him and his company, and it's going to be awesome. So years go by. It's all built as if he says it was going to be built. Actually, it's maybe even more spectacular than I could have even imagined. Then I see him again, and he's like, what else is there? What else can I do? Like, this guy has the insatiable appetite to do big things and great things. It's a little bit like Jim Dolan in the sense, like, when Jim Dolan is doing the Sphere, and now he's doing the Sphere over in Abu Dhabi and the Garden. Are they going to move the Garden? Or are they going to – and a little bit like Trump.
Yeah.
We need big things. I need big things. I got to do something. What's the next thing on my plate to get done?
Yeah. Yep.
And the next thing on his plate to get done is to try to win a Super Bowl. And in order to win a Super Bowl, when a coach of John Harbaugh's caliber comes available, and you also have a GM job opening, and you can pair two guys that have worked together from the Ravens organization, and this guy, Chad Alexander, is coming from the Chargers, who's worked with John Harbaugh's brother, Jim, and you have just basically deep pockets. To me, it feels like now that all of a sudden becomes a match made in heaven.
Sure. And the team right now is a mess. The roster is weird. The quarterback situation is unsettled. And all those things are true about the Miami Dolphins as well. But if you're John Harbaugh and you're thinking, I could set myself up for the rest. I mean, he's already got generational wealth. But he's going to be walking into a situation where Stephen Ross is going to give him whatever he wants from a financial standpoint and an organizational standpoint. And then John's going to be like, okay, if it's a couple years where we got to change this thing around and get rid of the quarterback and have to have a bad year or two, fine, because I'm going to be fine because this guy's got my back. I got this humongous contract. It's a guaranteed contract. It's probably going to be for 8 years or something like that to take him till he's 70 years old.
It'll be like 8 years, $160 million.
I mean, and I don't think the Giants, as much as the Giants, we've talked about all the positives with the Giants, they're just not going to, the ownership group and where it is now and all the things we talk about, they're not going to be able to compete with that. They're not going to give John Harbaugh what Stephen Ross is going to give John Harbaugh. So that's why it's going to be Kevin Stefanski as the Giants head coach, and maybe that even works out better than John Harbaugh. We don't know. Or maybe there's a chance that Matt LaFleur shakes loose, and Matt LaFleur would love to come to the Giants with Jackson Dart.
That would be unbelievable.
Maybe that
would just blow me away. Again, we don't know what goes on in these buildings, but that would shock me.
It wouldn't shock me because the reporters they were asking about his job security. So it's not like this would come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
So there is chatter about it. And I think that because this year, like we look at, because the football's been so bad here, we sometimes have a warped vision of other franchises. The Green Bay Packers this year, this was an all-in move. When we talked about the Micah Parsons thing, that was an all-in move.
The guy got hurt, man.
I know he got hurt, but this season was supposed to be huge for them. And
Jordan Love got hurt.
Right, but it's you know what? Excuses, whatever. People want to change. They feel like we can get this guy, that guy, my own guy in, and we lose to the Chicago Bears.
Like who would be the guy to replace Matt LaFleur in Green Bay? So I'm thinking so I think that there are two jobs, Atlanta and Miami, where both have aging owners.
Yeah.
Both have unbelievable or unlimited resources. I could see both of those guys going, all in for established people and trying to pair them with the right general manager. And now that kind of just leaves the Giants out there. Now, if the Giants got Kevin Stefanski, which prior to the John Harbaugh firing was like my number one guy for the Giants.
Yeah.
It was. And if they got him, I'd still be really happy with that.
Sure. I mean, at this point, yeah.
Hell yeah, it would be. And I'll tell you what, to me, the Giants football team, because of Jackson Dart, to me is a little bit more appealing just simply because this kid should be stabilizing this franchise for the next 10 years.
So if the LaFleur thing happens,
this is unbelievable.
This
I know,
is
crazy. You have these old billionaires, just fighting it out in the streets. Like I can see all the memes and I can see everything else. I can see, Cap's got to come up with something.
I mean,
with Stephen Ross fighting with, what's his name, Arthur Blank fighting with the Mara family. I mean, this is crazy what's going on right now.
I mean, it's a billionaire Schween measuring contest is what's going on right here.
Very well put.
And here's a scenario that if the Packers do lose to the Bears and maybe they get blown out by the Bears, Stefanski to the Packers, Harbaugh to the Dolphins, and Matt LaFleur to the Giants. There you go. That would be a scenario there. I think
I could live with that.
I think what's going to happen now, though, is it feels to me, and this has probably got to be the consensus opinion of anybody who's following this, is that Kevin Stefanski is going to be the Giants head coach and John Harbaugh is going to the Dolphins.
Good.
I think that's what we've got.
Okay, that's fine.
That's what we've got.
The only thing, like Jim Harbaugh said, I just hope he doesn't go to the AFC. Remember he said that about John?
Yeah, but tough. And he's going to...
Jim Harbaugh knows something. They all have the same agents. That's the thing.
Yeah, and
I'm sure the brothers have the same agent, and I'm sure that Jim knows exactly what's going on.
Well, and plus, I mean, Stephen Ross has been so good to Jim Harbaugh. He's not going to be upset if John goes there. He's going to be like, my brother's getting taken care of. This guy's been taking care of me forever.
Well, he tried to get Jim Harbaugh to go down to Miami.
Right. And it never ended up working out.
It seems to me like John Harbaugh is the more stable of the two brothers.
Oh, without a doubt. But I mean, that adds to it, by the way. You bring that up. How much he wanted Jim, and the timing never worked out. He's probably thinking now, I couldn't get Jim, but I'm not letting John go anywhere.
Well, the thing about getting Jim, that would have meant taking him away from Michigan.
Right, which would have, it's not what he wanted to do.
Instead of that, he gives money to Michigan.
Sure.
Stephen Ross does.
So this is the best situation. Couldn't get Jim because of those circumstances, but I'll get John.
And if you're firing Mike McDaniel's right in the middle of all this.
Yeah.
God.
Clear the way.
Yeah, that's right, man. Clear the deck is what's happening.
Clear the deck.
This is why the NFL offseason is so good.
Yeah, I mean
It's ridiculous. We're not even talking about the games yet or that great game last night. We touched on it a little bit. I mean, but we're talking more about these personalities, these coaches, the reality, and what a team like the Giants really need. They need a guy to stand on that sideline that those fans can get behind.
Yeah, so think about it. You've got wild card weekend, got divisional playoff weekend next weekend. We got the coaching carousel now, and then you still have in the offseason in March free agency, which is wild, and then the draft in April. I mean, they really spread it out amazingly how this whole thing works. I mean, it's basically just late February where nothing's going on.
I mean, you got 8 openings, though, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, there was a point where, Valente and I were talking on kickoff, I want to say about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and he's like, okay, what about this coach? What about that coach? What about this coach? And we came up with really 5 guys maybe, and it all depended on what was going to happen with Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Down in Tampa. And Todd Bowles is the one that basically made it through. And now you have 8 other guys that have just been blown out. We thought Mike McDaniel possibly. We felt Raheem Morris definitely. I felt like Kevin Stefanski definitely. We already knew about what happened with the Titans and the Giants. So I think, I said 7, and here we are at 8.
Yep. And big names out there.